From the outside, Mr. Khan, it looks as though a legal noose is tightening around your neck. Does it feel that way to you?
Yes, Stephen, it's been like that for a while, ever since I was out of power 14 months, 15 months ago. What was hoped by the establishment which removed me, what they hoped was that the party would just fizzle away. And normally it happens when you're out of power for quite a while. But instead what happened, the most unusual thing in this country, that the party's popularity kept growing. And then in the by-elections that took place, out of 37 by-elections, my party swept 30 of them. And this is despite the establishment backing the government parties. So since then, the attempts are being made to knock me out of the game. I had 2 assassination attempts on me. And apart from that, now I have close to my double century, almost 200 cases. And the whole attempt is to either imprison me or disqualify me, or both.
Yeah, you talk about being knocked out of the game. Isn't the reality, now that there are these pretty much 200 cases against you, which include a whole range of charges, the corrupt misuse of official gifts is one, contempt of Pakistan's election commission is another, but then there are others which include, as I understand it, sedition, blasphemy, and one case which even alleges your involvement in a murder. It's becoming so complex and so serious that frankly you don't have time for anything else.
Well, you forgot to mention there are about 60 or 70 terrorism cases against me. So all my time is spent from going from one court to another courtroom. I have made in 2 months over 350 court appearances, and my legal team is busy fending off one case after the other. But the thing is, nothing sticks because these are frivolous, bogus cases. And what now they are planning to do is to have military courts. And this is right now in the Supreme Court, whether the courts will allow military courts or not. And the objective of the military court is that there I certainly will be sentenced.
Your contention, I guess, is that you're guilty of absolutely nothing. Is that it?
Absolutely nothing. Look, Stephen, someone till the age of 70 never had one criminal case against him. In the last few months, how can you have 200 criminal cases? And here's someone who this country knows for 50 years. You know, I'm not someone who this country doesn't know, not just as a cricketer, as someone who has done the biggest charitable projects in our history, who people give more money than anyone in our history, so who trust them, who trust with their money. So people don't believe this. And as a result, according to the opinion polls, rather than the popularity going down, it is just going further up.
I'm sure you're familiar with the notion of karma and the phrase, what goes around comes around. Would you accept that one problem for you is that the positions you stake out today are very different from the positions you've taken in the past? And when I say that, I'm thinking, number one, of your enthusiasm for the court's ruling that Nawaz Sharif, back in the period before 2018, should not be allowed to run again for public office. You, for a couple of years, demanded that he be barred from politics. In the end, he was. You said the courts had every right to bar a senior politician from running for office. The courts may well be about to bar you from running for office in the forthcoming election. So it's going to be difficult for you to argue the courts have no right to do that.
There's a word or 2 words, moral equivalence. It's when you equate two completely unrelated incidences and combine them and sort of draw an analogy. Look, Nawaz Sharif, how did he get caught? It was in Panama Papers, that expose that took place, where it was discovered that he had 4 luxury flats in London, which he had not declared and were in his daughter's name. There was 1.5 years in court. There was a joint investigating committee which asked him to provide where did he get the money to buy these 4 flats. When he couldn't, that's when he was disqualified. It cannot be compared with me, where out of almost 200, there are only 2 corruption cases and both I'm fighting, and I'm telling you that both the cases, they will never find anything because there was no corruption. You can't compare him 4 luxury flat worth millions of dollars in London. He gets convicted, he gets to serve a sentence to compare to what is going on right now.
Would you accept that you've made several grave errors in the recent past? Perhaps one of your most serious errors was fomenting an atmosphere after you were ousted from power last year, an atmosphere in which you encouraged hostility toward the military. And when you were arrested in May of this year, your supporters immediately took to the streets in violent protests, which included violence directed against military targets, including the house of one senior general. They were your people responding to your rhetoric.
Well, Stephen, let me just answer this one by one. Number one, in my 27 years in politics, never have I told anyone ever to be violent. All our protests have been within the Constitution, peaceful protest, which is allowed when we feel any injustice, it is a right to have a protest. And that's what we've done. We did the longest ever protest of 126 days, and not one act of violence ever took place. There were peaceful protests. We used to protest and go back. So first, let me make it clear, and this is what the courts have discovered. When they tried to accuse us, when the government accused us of attacking army buildings, the courts, two judgments now have cleared us that none of us were involved in any of violence. We believe that there should be independent investigation into just four places where the violence took place.
But hang on, did you not think for a moment, knowing Pakistan as you do, the polarized feelings amongst your people, did you not think for a moment it was irresponsible of you in the months running up to May 9th of this year to be accusing the military of essentially running a puppet government, of launching a coup d'etat, of taking over Pakistan and completely undermining its democracy? Did you not for a moment think that that might lead to trouble?
So, Stephen, what you're saying is that I should not tell what was the truth? Everyone in Pakistan knows what happened. The defense minister, the current sitting defense minister, who's now, who was in the opposition, he has given a public statement that way back in 2020, we were 6 months down the line in our government. He said that the army chief told him categorically that he wanted to get rid of my government. And had it not been for 2 years of COVID-19, which is why he held back, that's the only reason he didn't remove our government. Now, this is from the current defense minister. So, no one in this country is in any doubt that it was the ex-army chief who removed my government. In fact, he has bragged. He said he thought Imran Khan was dangerous for Pakistan. That's why he removed me. So this is just a fact.
Well, I talked about karma. Yeah, I talked about karma before. The truth is, you rode the tiger of military support for their political candidate. You rode that tiger yourself. In 2018, you were close to the military. You remained close to the intelligence services and the military in your early years in power. And it was only when you fell out with the military that you decided you wanted no military meddling in politics. Again, it's hypocrisy. One of the army spokespeople said, Imran Khan is the biggest hypocrite.
So, Stephen, I need to correct you again. My party is the only party that was not created by military dictators. People's Party, Ayub Khan, the first dictator, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was his minister for 8 years before he left his government and then created the party. Nawaz Sharif was manufactured by General Ziaul Haq. He was a businessman. My party started from zero. 22 years I built my party from scratch. And then, if in 2018 the army backed us, then how come, despite the establishment openly going against us, trying to dismantle us, how come after we are out of government, we win 30 out of 37 by-elections? How come that has happened? Because the establishment, everyone knows, is standing with the government. So how come we sweep all the by-elections? So clearly we did not come into power because of the army. Where you're right, the army did not oppose me in 2018. That's where you're right. But in 2013, the military establishment backed Nawaz Sharif, brought him into power. That's why we did this protest for 126 days, because we wanted We wanted the audit of the elections because we knew the elections were rigged.
But
when in 18 we came into power, we asked them to open the elections because we knew we had won free and fair